Welcome to School Zone, the show all about your local school districts here in the White Mountains. I'm your host, John Larsen. Today I'd like to do a little bit something different that I'd like to do every show from here on out, but we've got some accomplishments that our students and some of our teams have made over the last little while. I wanted to share those with you. Our high school stunt team won the AIA 3A state championship. In wrestling, we had a state champion. Cole Housley won his weight, state champion. And the junior high spirit line won third place in the Arizona State competition. Our 8th grade boys basketball won second place in the division championship game. And our academic decathlon team at the high school earned first place in the 3A championships. And then a couple more accolades here. Madison Taylor and Josh Kittle both made AMEA All-State Choir. So we want to thank those folks for representing our district and congratulate them on their accomplishments. So today we have the new high school head football coach, varsity coach at the high school, Carlo Hernandez with us today. And we're glad that you're here. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy and crazy, and especially getting prepared, but do me a favor, you're somewhat new up here on the mountain. Yes. I know you've been here for not quite a year working, but tell us about yourself, introduce yourself, tell us about your education.
All right, like you said, I'm Carlo Hernandez. Not overly unfamiliar with this area, being the head coach at Coolidge from 2000-2009. Was introduced to 3A football fairly quickly when Coach Morrow and Coolidge met in the state championship game, and we were both 13-0 at the time, and it was not a very good day for Coolidge Bears. Coach Morrow and his staff, they did a great job, and they defeated us in our first time up here. So familiar with Blue Ridge, I'm familiar with Sholo. Again, to bookend my 3A career, at the time, my last chance of trying for a three-peat, we played Sholo down at the University of Arizona, and again, wasn't a pretty good game for the Bears. So throughout those years, I've become very familiar with the Round Valleys, the Sholos, the Blue Ridges, the Snowflakes, and even the Paysons at the time. Mm-hmm. So though I'm new to the area, I'm not that unfamiliar with the territory. But going back, I'm a graduate of Casa Grande High School. I graduated in 1990. So I went from one Cougar, Casa Grande Cougar, to a Sholo Cougar. I went full circle. From Casa Grande, I played college football at Adams State College in Colorado for about a year, 2 years, and then I transferred to Northern Arizona University, where I obtained my degree in Parks and Recreation Management. Coming out of the gate, my father, who was very instrumental in my life and who I've become as a human being, he was a principal for many years down in Casa Grande. Mother was also in education. Dad pulled me aside and said, you know, I know you still want to coach. He's like, go back and get your certification. So I went back, got my certification, started as an assistant coach at Maricopa High School for a year. And then after that year, I went to Coolidge, so I was an assistant coach in Coolidge for 3 years before I took over in 2000. Again, had a pretty decent run there. Those years we played in 6 state championship games. I was very fortunate to win 2. But, you know, if my dad who's still up there looking down on me, his favorite saying, because parents are from Texas, and we know how big football is in Texas. You know, every time I bring up my 2, he'd always say, yeah, but you lost 4, boy. I was like, thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Man, always served me up some humble pie. So from at Coolidge, I went to Vista Grande High School in Casa Grande. So I got to go home, and it was a new school. Boy, I tell you what, it's harder than what people think to build a new school.
New program?
New program from the ground up. It was exciting, but very cumbersome, very tedious in the process. And throughout that time, we were able to win an individual or independent state championship because at that time, when Vista Grande opened up, in that area, it seemed like there was 8 new schools that opened up at the same time. You're looking at the Poston Buttes, the Combs, some of the bigger schools now, and the AIA allowed us to play a playoff and have a championship game, and Vista Grande was able to win that championship. So we started out on a high note, and then I started to feel a little burnout. And so I just took some time off, and I moved out to back east for a while. Then I came back to all places, Sholo. I was here, offered a recreational job from a company, and throughout that time, that's when COVID hit. So this program was at a standstill, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, what am I supposed to do? So at that time, Sequoia Elementary School here in Sholo was looking for a teacher, and I didn't know that, but I went to just be a teacher assistant or a para, because I still thought this job was going to this recreation job was going to still take place. So I interviewed for the job, and on my way out, the principal, assistant principal, they're like, well, we have a teaching job, 3rd grade. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. And to their credit, they stayed after me, and they got me to do 3rd grade for this year. This is where I'm at. And those darn kids, they're in me. I love those guys. It's a great school. It's a great environment there. But throughout that whole time, I told them, my passion is to be back on the field eventually. And I, again, knowing this area, people just don't leave jobs, especially football jobs up here. So I was, you go places and you start to make friends, and the Blue Ridge job opened up, and I know Coach Hathcock from the past, and from him being down the valley, and I knew that job was basically his, so, and it was, and it is, and just thinking, okay, I'll just take a year off. Then I had every intention of probably heading back down to the valley, where my roots are, where pretty much my comfort zone, where everybody I knew was down south from the valley down. And again, just being in the gym, somebody told me, hey, the Sholo job's open. Like, oh, I didn't know. And I didn't think of too many things about it, but I just applied just to get used to applying again, get back in the game. And from there, things just happened. And to the credit of the Sholo committee, it wasn't an easy process. I mean, there was an interview, then another interview, then a writing part, and I'm like, I'm not trying to get. I'm not trying to get into the FBI, just I'm trying to be a 3A football coach. So they did their due diligence, and I was offered the position, and now I'm here, and like you said, it's very busy. Not knowing a lot of people, I had to do my due diligence in the coaching staff and who I'm going to surround myself with. And that was the process. That was probably the biggest process, was hiring assistant coaches, quality men who are going to build character in these kids. And knock on wood, I think we found those guys, and we're going to try to lead these gentlemen and or females, if they want to come out, to be great individual citizens in the community. And you know, I say that knowing that I have my three pride and joys down in the valley. I have three young boys. They're not young anymore, but my oldest is graduating from Santa Cruz in Eloy, and he was fortunate to win a state championship this year, and I got to see every one of his games. So
Great.
I'm proud of him, and I have two other ones that are sophomores and freshmen down there, and I'm trying to get them up here, but you know, their mom and I, you know, we gotta
Figure that one out.
I don't see that in the cards, but
it'd be great to coach your boys, though, wouldn't it?
yeah,
That'd be pretty cool.
that was the, you know, down the road when I never coached them. I never wanted to coach them because I wanted them to have their own opinions. I wanted them to have other styles, not that, you know, my dad says this. Your dad's not your coach. That's your coach. You go listen to him. You know, but you know, those are, you know, that was the driving force for me to come back here. And like I said, it just happened that Shola was the place that I ended up, and I've loved every minute of it so far.
It sounds like things just kind of fell into place.
Absolutely.
You know, sometimes I know in my own experience when things fall into place like that, it turns out to be a decent situation. So
absolutely.
Here's hoping that this works out really well. You mentioned your father. I could tell that your father means a lot to you. Tell me about your role models. Who are your role models? I assume Dad's one of them.
He's, you know, and that's not one of those things that, you know, I just say just to say. I mean, he and anybody who knows my father, and I've found a lot of people up here do know my father.
Really?
He's a stand-up man. He's just a man who lived on his principles, you know, and he was a principal, weird. But it was one of those things, you know, he wasn't a man of many words, but you knew what he meant just by his face. And he led by example. And I knew when I left high school that, you know, a lot of people think that that's the end. And I just remember going, well, I don't know, everybody's partying and having this, that. I'm going to college. Because that was just the way it was in my family.
Well, it sounds like you come from a highly educated family, and those are the expectations.
That's the expectations, right? And you know, that's the kind of stuff that I want. I know I'm instilling those in my kids, but I want to instill that in these kids that I'm coaching also, and that I'm teaching. That even it doesn't have to be college. You know, nowadays, go to a trade school. You know. Further yourself, you know, become a better person. You know, because you know, I can say this being in education since '96. You know, some of the people who go to trade schools are making a heck of a lot more money than I'll make. Yeah. You know, so there's no shame in doing that. And you know, I encourage all these gentlemen and again, ladies to go past high school. You know, college isn't for everybody. I get it. I know it. But you know, further your education and make yourself better. You know,
thanks. I appreciate you.
Do what's best for the community and yourself.
So, tell me a little bit. You mentioned your coaching staff. Tell me about your coaching staff. Local people. You bring some people in. How'd you do that?
You know, I know when I was hired, they asked me, you know, hey, go back to the Valley. You know, if you can bring up some of your ex-coaches, great. And I tried. And I'm still trying, but this, you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, it's tough to uproot these coaches that I've had in the past with me for so many years, to uproot their families and come up here. And you know, basically right now they couldn't afford it. You know, unless you have family up here or you had a house up here through somebody somehow, it's financially, it's not going to work, you know. And I just had one of my old football kids graduate from college. He reached out. He said, "Coach, you know, do you have something on staff?" I was like, "Yeah." "Can you afford this?" And he's like, "No." You know, so it's no fault of anybody's other than it's the way the economy is. So then I had to go back to the drawing board and I had to familiarize myself with a lot of people that throughout this community. Again, knowing the territory is one thing. Knowing the people and feeling comfortable is another. And I sat and, there's about 9 coaches that we'll have on staff because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. So I need to have a lot of coaches, a lot of smart coaches around me. And that's what I've always done. I'm sure you can bring somebody right now off the street and X and O me and he'll probably beat me. So I need guys who understand the game to help out the program. And I think I brought those guys along. And like I said, I've had to, there are days where I've talked to 2 coaches throughout that whole day just because we just sit and talk. Because that's probably about the best thing I do is I surround myself with people who I feel can do the job. Because if I'm gonna bring them along, it's because they have a job to do. I'm not gonna micromanage them because I've got my own stuff to do. We're all collectively bought in to our process, and I say our because it's not just mine. It's everybody involved in this as a staff is bought into what's going on right now, and I think hopefully the community will see that things are going to be different. I'm not from here, and I have a different style than probably they're used to as far as what I believe in what's best for the program or the child and the betterment of each, the program and the kid. I want everybody to be successful. And some of these kids who are used to playing a position since Pop Warner, they're going to be like, well, I never played that. Well, you are now.
Yeah.
And I think some of these kids want that. I think they wanted to hear a new voice.
Have you been able to talk to some of the kids?
Yeah, we're out there right now.
All right, okay, good.
I'm actually missing practice right now, so.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Well, I'm gonna get in trouble before you. We have our voluntary practices right now, and before we start spring ball next week. But I'm so excited with the turnout. We've had over 40 kids coming out who aren't involved in other sports because. Definitely don't want to take away from other sports. I grew up playing 3 sports. I want these kids, they're in high school, let them enjoy high school. I'm not real big on the individualized, I just do this.
One thing specific,
I'm all about having these kids be kids. So right now we're just targeting the people who aren't in another sport. If they're in another sport, I've had some kids come out to practice and their coaches are coming and say, well, he's got to be at practice. I'm like, you got to understand, I don't know who he is. Right. Like, you grab whoever you need.
Right.
There's been, we're still a trial and error,
Good,
trying.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that you've found local talent that you can surround yourself with in your coaching, and obviously the kids are, well, it always seems we've got talented kids, so I'm excited about that.
Definitely a lot of talent up there.
Tell us about, I want to know what kind of offense you're running without divulging too much. Tell me about your offense and defense.
Well, I know defensively we're going to be as aggressive as we are offensively. Offensively, we're a wing T type of team in nature. Once we learn that, you're going to see multiple sets. I was just drawing over our multiple sets today, and we're about 5 pages deep in 10 pages of formations. So we're going to try to outman you, try to play the numbers game with you, and we're going to try to utilize what I feel our best athletes are, help them to be one-on-one. If it takes us that we need to run the ball, we'll run the ball. Don't get me wrong, I like to throw the ball, but there's a lot of wind up here, I'm finding out. So we'll like I said, we're multiple formations. I'd like to be a no huddle team, but again, all this stuff is all going to be predicated once we see exactly what we have. I can just go off what we've done in the past. You know, in my past teams, we were very fast, and so we utilized that, and we took the philosophy of the Coolidge basketball program back in the early 2000s to where they were just up and down, and most of those kids played football. And again, I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm like, well, why don't we just do that in football and just transfer it over? And we did. That's what we did. So, I mean, we were a true no huddle to where it was harder on me at the beginning of the week because I scripted every play for 40 plays, and we would just stay to that script. We never even touched the huddle. Or by Friday, the kids knew what play was coming next because it was such repetition. As the years went on, you know, you start getting into more verbiage, and then the game starts to slow down. But we're still, you know, we're either no huddle. So we got 3 phases of the no huddle. We call it NASCAR, which is we're just going. Then you got the muddle huddle, to where we're still calling the play as we're going up to the line, but not as fast. And then you got the just line up in the formation and then wait for the call. So there's 3 different phases, you know. And again, once you get into a set, you may think you're in a set. We can just call a number or a catchphrase, and we can shift into another formation, and then you start doing the fun stuff, where you start doing motions, and you know, that's we're going to take both sides of that of the ball with that same type of philosophy. Talking with the defensive coordinator, you know, I talked to him, and I told him that, you know, I remembered how our kids down in Coolidge, they knew. It didn't matter what team it was. They knew every time they played a mountain team, they were going to get smacked in the face. That they were physical, hard-nosed kids. You know, they were disciplined, very talented. And I was like, I want to bring that back. You know, however we do it, if we need to just play with 11, then we'll play with 11. But you know, like I said, when we played the mountain teams when I was in Coolidge, you know, our guys were like,
Knew you were in for a game.
We knew Saturdays that in the training room we were at full board. You know, everybody across the board is in there getting their little owies.
Rehabbing.
Yep. So
let me ask you,
yes, sir.
What's your philosophy in your feeder program? Are you going to be involved with the junior high and how they'll be playing football?
I'd like to again take something that I learned from somebody up here on the mountain, and that's Coach Morrow. He and I, you know, we did have a relationship, more so out of season than in season. You know, in season we kind of had a little rivalry, but out of season we would talk, you know, coaches' clinics, and you know, we'd break bread and we'd talk over things. And he felt how important it was to have his Pop Warner teams run their base type of offense and defense all the way up to the junior high. To when he got them in high school, there wasn't a lot of teaching going on because they understood the formation, they understood the play, and more importantly, now they understood the verbiage. You know, so they didn't have to, okay, this is what this means. They knew it. You know, and that's what I'd like to see. You know, and I know with so much going on, you know, I'm so far behind where I would like to be. You know, at this time, you know, I'd like to have already had a meeting with the junior high program and say, this is what I want from you. You know, anything after that is fine. You know, I'm not going to stifle your creativity, you know, but this is what I want. I want our verbiage and just our basic wing tee stuff. After that, you know, you can go ahead and do your double, triple pass over the head stuff, you know. that's totally on you.
Coach, we got a couple of minutes left. I just want to end with this. What's our road to the championship?
Hard work, dedication.
Hard work and dedication.
Hard work, dedication. It's a true buy-in. You know, it's going to have to, and it's going to have to be a whole community. You know, I told the kids, you know, we have to, you know, respect the change that's happening. You know, what they've learned in the past is the past. It's like we're going to learn a new way. Yeah, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's going to be different, and hopefully, you know, these kids buy in, and they're going to work hard. They're going to be accountable. They're going to be respectful young men and women, and you know, if anything, they're going to make this community proud to be a Cougar, and you know, hopefully we get everything done in the classroom. You know, we're going to instill study tables for our varsity teams, and you know, we're just going to get after it. We're going to have fun doing it, and you know, winning breeds winning. Winning's just as contagious as losing, and we want to win. And I told our kids, I surround myself with winners, and there are a bunch of winners out there right now. So hopefully we can bring that ball back up here where it belongs.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate you being with me today.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you taking the time. And as far as I'm concerned, today is the start of the road to the championship. Thanks for joining us here on the School Zone, and we'll see you again soon.